Yep, it's good. Now let's address the elephant in the room. My hair is still wet from the shower. Now we can move on. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of everything. Kane Parsons' The Backrooms was a good movie. This is coming from a person who has never really been into Backrooms content. I've played Escape the Backrooms maybe for a couple of hours. I thought it was relatively boring. The game is pretty basic. But I haven't really got into the lore of the Backrooms. And Kane Parsons has turned me into a kind of a hopeful dreamer of the Backrooms content now. Let's get into the actual review. The beginning, we open up with found footage. It was a great shot of the Backrooms, very scary, very nerve-wracking. We see a little bit of the monster, we see a little bit of the rooms that we're going to be dealing with in the movie. A lot of repetition, a lot of being alone. You'll see that theme kind of peek out throughout the entire movie. Once that that hard open, gets us into the movie, we meet our main character, Clark. Clark is an angry individual who got kicked out of his house a while ago for having a very, very animated argument with his wife, where he calls her, he calls her fat. He tells her to get off her fat ass and work. He makes all the money, and she threw him out of the house. Honestly, as she should. That is ridiculous behavior. So the guy lives at the store that he works at now. He's working at a furniture store. He's a booze hound. He's an alcoholic. He's got nothing going for him. He used to be an architect, and he thinks that he deserves the world because he had this dream of being an architect, and he kind of put it away so that his partner could go to school. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but those themes kind of come up later on. So we'll get into more character development here. We meet Mary, the therapist of Clark, which is a big character, especially at the second half of the movie, which, again, the second half of the movie, to me, kind of got a little bit off the rails. It got a little bit slower in the pace of everything. I kind of lost the story, personally, but it was still a good movie throughout. Mary, who's dealing with a lot of stuff on her end as well, not just Clark. She's dealing with the trauma of growing up in what seems to be either an abusive household or a household with a mom that is severely, severely not capable of raising her daughter. So, obviously she goes into therapy. She's doing this exercise with Clark, and it's a role play, and Clark gets very angry. He starts to yell and scream at Mary, and she keeps her cool and tells him that he's valid for all these crash outs that he's having. Again, you gotta think about later on in the movie. And during this time, there's not a lot of music, which I find to be very interesting in these types of slow burn, kind of really psychological thriller movies. If there's a lot of silence, then it's really captivating if you can build on that silence. And Kane Parsons does a good job of building on that silence in this film. I would say that this is probably one of the better scored films that I've seen recently, just because of how intent the sound design was. Everything's very quiet. You can hear a pin drop in the movie theater. The shots of the Backrooms themselves, whenever we go through them for the first time, whenever we see Clark actually phase through the wall, very cool. Very cool. I ended up learning that it was a real set. It was around 30,000 steps, or 30,000 feet in the set, so basically a giant warehouse set. Very cool. You can tell that it's all very real. The no clipping in the walls and the weird architecture looks very nightmarish. There's faces coming out of the walls. There's a lot of pirate themery, which, again, going back to Clark's store, that's kind of where all this is tied into it. It seems to all be tied into Clark. This is Clark's story, at least for now. This is Clark's story, and we're going to be doing a lot of deep diving on Clark. Okay, so he goes in there, and he is walking around. He is dumbfounded. He sees a little bit of sliver of light. He's walking by, and he's like, hey, wait a minute. I think that's a room back there. Hence, him falling in there. And the shot, again, the shot of him going in there is fantastic. A lot of people were asking how he found his way back the first time that he went in the room. Honestly, he kind of went like a 50-step line, like straight line, went right back. Also, the dude's an architect. He's not dumb. He's going to be able to get through the Backrooms relatively easily. At least that's what I was thinking in my head. Once we get out of the Backrooms for the first time, he starts mapping it out. He tells Mary about it, and she doesn't believe him, of course. So he's going to bring people in And this is where, you know, he starts to get the people that are helping him out with filming the commercials. And those people are Kat and Bobby. Kat is actually a girl from this show that me, Melissa, and Tina are all watching right now called Shrinking. And it's on Apple TV. If you guys haven't watched it, very, very good. She's in it. She's great. The boyfriend, Bobby, he's funny. He's supposed to be like kind of a comic relief character. Again, a lot of found footage. So he brings his camera in there. We get a lot of good shots of them just walking around the rooms. They're really exploring. I think that it was kind of a little bit too in-depth of them walking just around rooms. I get we're supposed to see everything and be very, very scared about the entire setting, but it kind of seems like it's a little bit too heavy-handed with some of the length of the camera shots. Again, I'm not a director. I don't claim to be, so, you know, take it as you will. But I love the found footage aspect. I know it's been, like, in every horror movie ever, you get a little bit of found footage, but this one does it really well. Also, it sticks with how the games are supposed to be, which is very, very good. Bobby, I wrote in my notes, damn, Bobby low-key goated. He's funny as fuck. And then the immediately line after that is, damn, Bobby dead. You see Bobby's corpse getting sucked up through the ventilator shaft type thing. There's blood everywhere. His arms are leaking. But we get the camera. No more Bobby, though. R.I.P. Bobby. This is at the time where everyone gets pulled through by the monster. The monster is chasing him out. And we don't get to see this guy. Okay, this monster is a very dark figure, very ominous, very tall and lanky. And he doesn't make any noise. But if you make any noise, he's going to hear you. Okay? So now we're traveling through the back rooms again. Still, this is, again, kind of goes with the whole slow burn thing. A lot of people don't like how slow these new films are being, especially like Backrooms in particular. And I've heard a lot about Obsession being a slower film. It's just a lot of build-up, a lot of tension, which I personally really like in this film. We go to Mary, excuse me, I almost called her Marie. Mary finds the Backrooms, figures out it's all real, and then goes and tries to find Clark inside of the back room. She sees all the schizo posting that he's doing. There's marker on the wall, marker on everywhere. There's tape set up on the door frame of the back room, so he's just trying to, you know, he's really trying to map it all out, it looks like. And this is after he came in there and was like laying it all down for her, and she just basically blew him off. She ends up finding Clark, which I thought at first was a fake Clark, but then it turns out, you know, he's a real fella. He looks real. He is the real Clark. And he pulls a WWE move and half Nelsons her, straight up chokes her out, ties her to a chair. And then this is where the movie kind of gets cattywampus. I'm going to be honest. It seems like they were kind of finding an ending instead of having an ending and filming it out. It kind of seems like they added ideas at the end here. They go back to doing therapy. This part all makes sense to me. Mary, Clark, they're doing that same role play they were doing at the beginning of the film, where Clark was sitting there and yelling, "You fat bitch, get off your ass. I make all the money." Wah, 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 wah. And he ends up scalping one of the figures that are here in the back rooms behind him, and puts it on her head. It's a very, very odd scene, but it makes a lot of sense because you really see how angry Clark is. Clark is just an angry man, and nothing's ever his fault, and it's all the world's fault. And he's stabbing these figures here. He's saying that they don't feel pain. He's cutting out little pieces of them and eating them. He says that they're edible. He's taking like stuffing out of the teddy bear and eating it. So during this conversation, during this roleplay, let me get back on track here. He ends up saying something along the lines of, or Mary, excuse me, says something along the lines of, "You're wired this way. It's okay," because she's trying to get out of the situation. Obviously, she's tied to a chair. There's a knife being pulled on her. You're valid for this, is what she says. You know, you're just wired like this. This is how you are. And then all of a sudden, you hear, or you don't hear anything. You see the lady in the back, freak out, and she runs to the corner and starts slamming on the walls. And then the big bad comes out, and it's revealed that it's actually Captain Clark, the mascot for Clark's furniture business. And it is Clark just in the pirate getup. He's a pirate, sultan. He doesn't really know what his identity is. And again, it comes back with the themes of the movie, being alone and being in the same loops over and over again. And so he tells this giant monster of himself that it's okay. The reason that we do all this is because this is how we're wired. It's okay. We're good boys. and he picks him up. He gets up, he's like, Dada, and then he grabs him, and he just eats him. And then and then the movie starts to go into second and third gear, honestly. Mary gets out of the chair. She's sprinting down the road. Another really good shot of a neighborhood. I think it's Mary's neighborhood. Really just ominous. Like, again, the feel of the movie is just so... It feels like you're trapped in that liminal space, which is a really, really good feeling for a movie like that. So shout out to Kane Parsons and the design team there. He's walking out. He's trying to get her. And this is all just like chase scenes. And it's not like the worst kind of chase scenes, you know? It's kind of a little bit long, but there's a lot of important information that gets passed on. There's a lot of rooms. Again, she goes to the furniture store, and it's almost an exact replica of the original store. However, there's a little bit off. There's a little bit off, and it turns out that it's filled with like some gas in order to, I think, trap the monster or trap Mary. I don't think it's really to trap Mary because they're kind of surprised whenever Mary pops out of there. Anyways, she gets captured by Captain Clark, and Captain Clark is gonna go and bite her, and all of a sudden she gets the willpower, she gets up and gets out of there, and then we meet the Async, which is the company of the Backrooms. I don't know much about Async Corporation. They apparently sold MRI machines or something like that, but I'd be down to learn a lot more about that. Mark Duplass comes out. He's a great cameo. He's the director of Creep 1 and Creep 2. He explains a little bit about what the corporation is and how they've been just trying to map it out just like Clark has. It seems like they've had a lot more success than Clark just because of how, you know, they haven't all died and Clark died. But yeah, it kind of ends on that, and it's just, it kind of leads into a second movie. I would think that the Backrooms 2 would be in production right now. I really, really liked the feel of this movie. Was it scary? A lot of people have been asking me that. No, not really. It's more of a slow burn psychological thriller. It's more of a film that you would watch for the liminal spaces and not the monster itself. I'm excited to see where Kane Parsons goes with future projects. The kid is 19 years old and apparently had no help directing this film. But like I said, I'm very, very excited to see more stuff like this. I would put this right behind Obsession for top movies I've seen this year. Obviously, Obsession being number one just because of how unique that story was and how well it gripped me the entire time. That's about it. You know, this is the first time we've done a movie review on this channel. If you guys are enjoying that kind of content, let me know. We can put out some more. If you guys haven't already, check out the merch. This is merch that we have in the shop. If you're in the Discord, or if you know where the links are at, you can go find them. I'll put it in the description of this video. But yeah, that is pretty much all I got for you. All right, bye.